So just to give a little background, we're Food Smart. We are one of the health benefits for Advocate Aurora Health. We are a personalized nutrition program, and we do everything from one-on-one sessions with a registered dietitian to curating thousands of recipes from our awesome culinary director, Lisa. And then you can use the app to browse recipes, order groceries, and so much more. But I'm going to pass it off to Lisa to give an overview on how to tackle Thanksgiving like a pro.
Yep. All right. Thanks everybody for joining us. We've got a really intimate group today, so we can have all kinds of questions and discussion. Thanks so much for joining us for how to pull off a Thanksgiving from a pro chef webinar. Our goal for today is to arm you with all the tips and tricks you'll need to effortlessly shop, prep, and serve a delicious holiday spread without all of the stress. I'll be your pro chef host for today. My name is Lisa, as Ellie told you, and I'm the director of culinary development for our company. I have over 20 years of experience in recipe development, content management for our company, and amazing and sometimes tragic Thanksgiving recipe testing and dinner feasts with family and friends. I'm really excited to share all my wisdom and have created this comprehensive and hopefully fun game plan for today to help you out. So first, we'll chat through what you can do ahead of time to make managing the pregame push a little bit less hectic. Then we'll move on to the actual Turkey Day cooking schedule. And finally, we will end with some of the most common mistakes I've seen and how to fix them. But before we fully dive in, let's do a quick poll that can be very controversial. All right, so what is the best Thanksgiving side? So first choice, stuffing and dressing. Second choice, mashed potatoes and gravy. Third choice, insert your favorite sweet potato dish. Fourth choice, the ever popular classic green bean casserole. And my personal favorite, all of them smashed together in a leftover sandwich. So feel free to answer. Well, the good news is that there is no wrong answer to this question. And to help you get all of your favorite sides to the table this year, let's dive in how to divide and conquer for a festive, low stress meal. All right, so we're just over a week away from the main event. So you've probably already figured out where your turkey is coming from. But if not, you may even have it sitting in your freezer. And if you're one of those people, good for you. But if not, when you're ordering your turkey, get to it now and plan on about 1 to 1.5 pounds per person. That takes into account the weight of the bones and to make sure you have enough for your guests and all of those tasty leftovers. And writing on a menu is always helpful to help organize your thoughts. I use chalk markers and write mine out on the fridge, but a plain old piece of paper works just as well. So now that we have that out of the way, we're up to speed for this week. So you can just sit back and Netflix and chill. Just kidding. Let's look forward to anything else we can accomplish. So sometime this week, you can also easily purchase all of your beverages to last through the holiday. If you're serving alcohol, plan on about 1 bottle of wine per adult just to be safe. And stock up on things like bubbly water, ciders, and juices to mix for lower calorie drinks for kids and adults to stay hydrated. This is also a great time. I usually check my coffee drawer to make sure that I have an assortment of coffees and teas. Honey and lemon are also great additions to have like a nice warm mug of tea after you have a walk in the morning. This is also a great time to check your serveware and make sure that you have enough for everything you're serving. I like to plan out which sides are going to be baked casserole style and which will just be served from the stovetop. So I wash and label them with a Post-it note and set them out. Having a visual is really, really great. And it's also the perfect time to borrow from friends and family or run out to the store to grab before the big rush. All right, now we can pat ourselves on the back because we've made it to Thanksgiving week. So up to 4 days before, you can buy all of your perishable groceries. I usually try to have my pantry stocked by this time right now with the dry goods that I need. So that's low sodium stocks, all my herbs and spices, flour, cornstarch if I need it, any baking needs, and anything also that I can freeze. So loaves of bread if I'm using it, cranberries, and your butter. And because the grocery stores will be really, really crazy next week, I lean on delivery when I can just to have the perishables sent to save time. If you can swing it though, next Monday morning is a good time to try and beat the crowds. The weekend rush is over and people aren't in full panic mode in that Tuesday and Wednesday spot. So if you've already grabbed your turkey, you'll want to defrost it now. If you want to have it thawed quicker, you can set it into your sink in a cold water bath and check it periodically and flip it, and that will help promote thawing. I also like to wash and dry all of my produce. So once you get everything into the kitchen, I wash it, dry it, spin it dry in my spin dryer, and store it in wrapped in paper towel in the crisper drawer. It's an easy step that you can do while you're making dinner this week, and you'll be so grateful for it later. And if you're not using pan drippings for your gravy, you can make your gravy, let it cool, and then store it in an airtight container in the fridge. I sometimes grab the neck and giblet pack from the turkey cavity and I sear it and use those for flavor, turkey flavor for the gravy, along with some onions and maybe even some mushrooms. Another thing you can do up to 4 days before is Ellie's favorite, make the cranberry sauce. There's no reason to wait until the last minute, and you can check it off your list and have it done on Monday. So next we're looking to about 2 days before. So, Tuesday of next week. You want to season your defrosted turkey with your desired wet or dry brines or rubs, and then chill it until you're ready to cook. You can also do this 1 day before, but 2 days before really helps it penetrate and give it more flavor. And if I'm using a wet brine, which I like to do, I love those really large Ziploc storage bags, and I empty one of my crisper drawers, double bag my bird with the brine inside of it, and nestle it into the drawer, and then flip it every so often. You can also at this time cut any vegetables that you plan to roast. So if you're roasting some Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, say you're going to roast some sweet potatoes instead of making a casserole, you can cut those and store them in the fridge now. So another great easy thing you can do is to make your salad dressing and store it in a glass jar or a squeeze bottle. That way you just have to grab it when you're getting ready to serve your salad. And I always dice onions, carrots, and celery, which is called mirepoix in the French style of cooking, and mince some garlic and store it in an airtight container in the fridge. Since these aromatics are the backbone of flavor for many, if not most of your savory recipes, chopping them once and using them over and over again will save time. And lastly, you can bake your sweet potatoes. So if you're making a mash or a casserole, you can bake your potatoes and let them cool. And in addition to saving valuable space and time in the oven, they're much easier to handle and scoop out. Right, so now we're up to 1 day before, where you can make your pie, pumpkin pie, pecan pie, whatever pie you like to make, and cover and store it at room temperature. I also like to take that bread that I've had in the freezer and I'll cube it and set it out to dry for the stuffing. Drier bread is better for stuffing or dressing, depending on what you call it, as it soaks up the liquid without getting completely soggy. So it stays a little bit crisp on the top. And then you can saute any onions, garlics, or celery and flavorings for the stuffing and put those in a separate container. If you're using cornbread, you can store it in an airtight container or bag at room temperature, and then put your sweet potato mixture in the fridge. So now that we've done all the prep we can do before the big day, we can move on to how to manage your time during Thanksgiving Day to make sure that everything gets done and to the table at the same time. So about 4 or 5 hours before, you can do any final seasoning, pull the turkey out of the fridge and put any final seasonings on there, your herbs, your butter, your salt and pepper, and plan on about 13 to 15 minutes per pound to cook your turkey. So if you have a big crowd, hence a big bird, you can throw it into the oven right now, or you can wait. And I always like to start with the legs toward the back because they take longer to cook. You can also assemble and bake your stuffing. And once it's done, let it sit at room temperature uncovered. I like to put things on top of my stovetop. I'll talk a little bit about that later. It keeps it a little bit warmer than putting it out on the counter. You can also assemble and bake your sweet potato casserole at this time. And once it's done, let it sit at room temperature. I like to keep it uncovered. I usually have some streusel on the top, so I don't want it to get moist and soggy. So then about 3 hours before, you can crank that oven that you had at 350 to 450. And this temperature helps promote browning and is perfect for things that cook faster, like veggies and your turkey skin. I will say that if you had already put your turkey in, I always like to start it at 450 degrees. That snaps the skin and really promotes that browning. So here you can roast any of your vegetables and set aside. And if your turkey was large and you had it in the oven already, you can give it a quick baste and then rotate the pan. So then we're about an hour and 30 minutes before the event. You're basting your turkey every 20 minutes. I like to heat my milk and cream and butter on the stovetop for my mashed potatoes. I like to finish my mashed potatoes at this time and then cover and keep them warm on the back of the stove. Or if you have one, you can put it into a slow cooker to keep it warm. Just a quick tip for mashed potatoes. I like to steam my russet potatoes when I'm making mashed potatoes, and then I spread them out onto a baking sheet and pop them into the oven for a few minutes just to release all of that moisture so they're nice and fluffy and not gluey. This is also a great time because you've got your turkey in the oven and you're really cranking on your sides to clean up the kitchen and put away any dishes that you've used, or solicit a friend or a family member or one of your kids to help you with that. And this is about the time that I put out some snacks. People usually are hungry, want a little bit something to snack on, and any drinks that you're serving at this time. So then about an hour before you're really in the home stretch now, I always like to change into my fancy outfit and have a cocktail just to really decompress. You can also have one of those great bubbly spritzers. And then about 45 minutes before, once you can pull the turkey out of the oven and turn the oven down to 225 or 250. You want to let your turkey rest for at least 30 minutes before you carve and plate it. And I'll get to that tip a little bit later. So then about a half an hour before, you can put all of the mashed potatoes, stuffing, and casseroles back into that warming oven. So 225 to 250 is a great temperature to keep things warm without cooking them further. So you can put those back into the oven to keep warm while you heat your gravy and stir it and then transfer it into a pitcher. So about 15 minutes before, you can put together your salad, which I know Ellie is in charge of at her house, and any last minute dishes. Then you can carve and plate your turkey and set everything out on the buffet table and let everyone serve themselves. And you've made it through. So, you can rest and relax and have dinner with your family. So with all of that being said, some of the best laid plans like these can take a nosedive fast. And given all of the different recipes being served on this food lovers holiday, something can and might go wrong. And in my many years as a recipe developer and chef, here are some of the most common fails I have experienced firsthand and or been asked. So these are my top tips and how to fix them. So first, we're going to start with turkey. So what if you forgot to thaw your turkey? So if you totally spaced on thawing your turkey, don't panic. You can use the water bath method I discussed earlier, and then you can also break down a mostly thawed turkey into breast and leg portions and put them on separate baking sheets for quicker cooking. And you can look at it this way, you're also one step ahead for carving. So that's always a positive to look forward to. And then sometimes, what if you feel like my turkey will never be fully cooked? Well, one thing that you can do is to make sure that you pull your turkey out of the fridge early enough to let it come up to room temperature. And that will ensure that your turkey is fully cooked through and your skin is crisp without being burned. And if you feel like your thermometer is just as stuck when you're trying to temp your turkey, it's not getting to that 165 degrees Fahrenheit that we like, you can always, again, break it down into separate parts to get it to cook faster and cut the legs off of either side of the breast to let more hot air circulate around them. And then if you're looking at your turkey and you're like, I think my skin is burning before it's finished cooking, parts of them are looking golden brown while others are still getting there. You can cover the brown parts with foil. So just loosely tent it with foil to protect them from those heating elements in your oven. And then, there's always the dreaded dry turkey. One thing you can do is to rest your turkey. So pull it out. I say 30 minutes. You can even let it sit for an hour. So letting any protein sit for a while, tented with foil on your counter, allows the juices to redistribute into your bird. And if it's still dry after that, don't worry about it. Just heat up some leftover stock and give the carved pieces a quick dunk. Breasts are usually the culprit because they have a lower fat content. So just gently put them in stock and then serve plenty of gravy and it'll be delicious. So now that we've looked at some of the main culprits with our turkey, let's talk about our sides and desserts. So I've made lumpy gravy. It's lumpier than an old pillow, and it can happen to everybody. You're busy, you're whisking, and you still get lumps. So I have two quick fixes in my back pocket that I like to use. First, if you have a fine mesh strainer, you can gently push the gravy through and discard the lumps that are captured in the strainer. Don't have one? No big deal. Pour your gravy into a blender or even put it into a container with a hand blender and gently blend or pulse until the lumps are gone. So then what happens if you burned the marshmallow topping of your family favorite sweet potato casserole? Don't fret over burnt marshmallows. You can gently peel or scrape the top layer off, add some fresh marshmallows on top, and just pay more attention to the broiler the second time around. One major culprit is not having enough room in your oven to hold all of the sides and the desserts that need to stay warm. So if your oven real estate is limited, you can lean on countertop appliances to help keep items warm. A slow cooker, an Instant Pot, and a toaster oven are great places to store sides. I even use my cooler to keep things warm sometime. I wrap the items in foil and stack them inside, and it acts as an insulator to keep things warm. And, I said this before, don't sleep on the stove top, especially if you have a gas range. The heat from the oven will radiate and keep things ambient and warm if you keep them covered. So oftentimes I keep things on the back of my stove if I'm using the front burners. And I also love the top of my toaster oven as a warming plate hack, because often I'll have things kept warm inside, and I could put dinner rolls or something else on top to keep it warm. And lastly, a dessert fail that happens all the time is you're rolling out your pie dough and it becomes one with the counter. It's not a lost cause. If it's stuck to the counter, you can take a piece of unflavored dental floss and gently wiggle it under the dough. I like to sprinkle the counter under the dough with flour as I go to make sure it doesn't readhere. And so